Hey guys, what is going on? We're going to break down the All Blacks team that has just been named for Argentina Game 2. Also going to look at the Wallabies team taking on the Springboks, trying to get a second scalp in South Africa. Wouldn't that just turn the rugby world upside down if they could do that? But starting with New Zealand, the biggest surprise here is that there are not really many surprises. Razor has more or less stuck with the exact same team, except for the fact that there are some injuries that have forced his hand. Patrick Tuipulotu, for instance, who was so good coming off the bench last week. He's flown back to New Zealand to get treatment. Unfortunately, we would have loved to have him against the Springboks at Eden Park. Sounds like he won't be available. So a little bit of a reshuffle there. I did think that Fabian Holland might be out. Turns out it was just cramps, no serious injuries. A little bit of false reporting during the week saying he might not make this team. But he's in there in the middle row. So you have the Barrett-Holland combo, and that keeps Tupou at 6, where he has gone so well. I mean, this is almost like the cheat code for the All Blacks. They have 3 world-class locks there. So they're dominating at line-out time. 4, 5, 6. I mean, each one a very good line-out option. Fabian Holland, the newcomer, perhaps being the best. And this is one of the reasons that the ABs had a 100% success rate on their own ball at line-out time last week. This has become really a rock in their game plan, a foundation that they are building on nicely, along with the scrum. There were 3 or 4 incredibly dominant All Black scrums either side of halftime last week. You really cannot underestimate the importance of that. Now, I thought that Tamaiti Williams might vault straight back into the front row. Instead, we have Ethan de Groot out there. He has gone so well. I think he's really showed the doubters. He's going to be sticking around for a long time in the All Blacks. But I do get it, because Tamaiti Williams, you know, he did have an injury. He was on crutches after the quarterfinals of Super Rugby. Probably shouldn't have played the grand final. But, as is often the case with these boys, they bleed red and black. You saw Sam Whitelock do it a few years back. He played a grand final for the Crusaders, absolutely wrecked himself, showed up to the All Blacks, you know, in no condition to play, and he would do it all over again. And that's what Tamaiti Williams said too. I'd do it all over again. So he played that grand final. A bit more damage was done to the knee. He rocked up to the All Blacks. Basically, minor knee surgery, you know, meniscus damage. That's all taken care of. I guess there's logic in thinking that the scrum is going so well, we don't need to shove Tamaiti straight back in, let him find his footing. Because it has been a couple of months since he's played. Same logic applied to Wallace Sititi. Many weeks since he's played. There was a risk in starting both of them against an Argentina team that will absolutely snap back. You saw the interviews with the All Black coaching staff during the week. Tamati Ellison was just saying there's going to be a huge lift in physicality, and I don't think he's wrong there. Of course, Cody Taylor at hooker was always a certainty to get his 100th cap, just the 14th All Black to do that, so that's pretty impressive. But there is one new boy in the mix, and that is number 8, Simon Parker. So the door was really open for him here, since we're not starting Wallace Sititi, but this bloke is about 117 or 18 kgs, stands at about 6'4". Wow, he is an absolute whopper, and I think that just shows the All Blacks are looking for sheer physicality in the loose forward mix to counter the Argentinians, but especially the Springboks coming up. So you could end up seeing Simon Parker in that squad to face the Springboks, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. For now, I just think that's really nice to see. A bit more depth building at 8. Different style of gameplay to a guy like Christian Leo Willie. Brute force, man. Size, physicality, I love it. Gone with the exact same backline here. And I think that is fair. You do want to keep getting the reps in. Seems like they're going to want to play Rieko Ioane against South Africa. So no point pulling him out at this point. You know, at some point it's got to click again. He's still playing like a midfielder on the wing, playing a bit more narrow than you'd expect. Maybe one more game here will loosen him up, open up the game. So if you go to the reserve bench, Josh Lord, he comes in for Patrick Tuipulotu. Long time since Josh Lord has played. I actually remember Josh Lord going pretty well against the Pumas in Mendoza in 2023, sort of a forgotten game because it was prior to the Rugby World Cup, which gets all the headlines and just sucks all the air out of the rest of the rugby calendar to the point that you pretty much forget whatever came before it. Rugby Championship gets overshadowed, etc. But Lord was very good in that game. I'm just hoping he can get back to some nice form here, keep that depth strong at lock for New Zealand. looking to the bench, obviously Anton Lienert-Brown was the other casualty, went home. He got a minor facial fracture in the process of being yellow carded in last weekend's game. So he's gone back home. That opened the door for Quinn Tupaea. I personally would like to see Timothy Tavatavanawai there. Would also give you a wee bit of cover at wing because he's a midfielder winger. Quinn Tupaea is really just a 12, and he's a specialist 12. Okay, he could fill in at 13, but if someone goes down in midfield, they're definitely going to have to work around the lack of versatility of Quinn Tupaea. So, bit of an interesting one there. Obviously, he's got more caps than Tavatavanawai, who's just a newcomer this year, and Razor's not taking chances. Same theme as last week. He does not want to drop either of these games in Argentina. He doesn't want the South Africans to smell blood, does not want to show any weakness. With that in mind, Finlay Christie is on the bench again. Look, he was okay getting the All Blacks attack humming last week. Did have 3 or 4 miscues defensively, which is a hell of a lot coming off the bench. Not sure he's to blame for all of them. A little bit less protection at times at the breakdown when he came on. And, of course, Jordie Barrett contributed to one defensive howler when Albanese cut through the middle. But Kyle Preston didn't exactly get rave reviews from the coaches this week when asked about him. All they said was that he was working hard, whereas they had great things to say about the progress of Wallace, Sititi, and Tamaiti Williams. So perhaps that one was telegraphed to a certain extent. Of course, Damian McKenzie's the finisher there, the super sub. So look, rock solid team. Very excited to see Parker out there, and probably leaning towards one more All Black victory in Buenos Aires. Let's take a look at the Aussies, though. Biggest loss, of course, is Harry Wilson, their captain. However, Rob Valetini coming back is pretty damn good. I mean, if anything, he's a stronger ball carrier than Wilson. Wilson has that unbelievable leadership and mana. He did pick up 2 tries last weekend just with sheer effort and support lines, but he's in the rearview mirror now. So the Wallabies can really benefit from Valetini punching the ball up more. Another big body to join Will Skelton, who has just turned this team around, really, since he came back against the Lions, adding that extra threat with ball in hand. Another guy who needs to show up is Taniela Tupou. He was very physical. The Aussies matched the Springboks at the set piece. The scrum was great. I talked in my video analyzing the Springboks team about how the South Africans need to be wary of the Wallabies scrum. It is not the pushover it used to be. Mike Cron, the Kiwi coach, has absolutely galvanized this scrum. And with Nick Frost and Will Skelton there, the Wallabies are doing pretty well winning their own line-out ball. Nick White and James O'Connor, those 35-year-old halves, they're back. They went so well last weekend. Of course, you're going to plug them straight back in there. Otherwise, the team looks very much the same with the exception of Corey Toole, who may just be the paciest back in Australia. He's there on the wing. And, of course, if you go to the bench, you have Nick Champion de Crepigny. He comes on. Again, you lose Harry Wilson, so then the depth chart comes into play. Tate McDermott's going to have a big role to play at halfback, coming off the bench, sniping, finishing strongly. And, of course, I guess you have Edmund there as 10 cover at a pinch. But, they're probably going to want to keep O'Connor out there most of the game. I think at his age, he tends to kind of warm up. It took him 20 minutes last week to get used to the intensity of international footy again. But once he was rolling, he was firing on all cylinders. Callaway's a great finisher too. So, look, how do I think this game is going to go? I'm expecting that backlash. However, they're missing Sia Khaleesi. They're missing Peter Steph Toy. Those are the first 2 names you would write down. A few interesting cuts, like I look at Willie LaRue coming back for South Africa at fullback. Older fella, 100 test caps. The exciting Apalele Fasi is cut. The exciting attacking 10 Money Lamok is cut. They've gone back to what they know. So check out my video analyzing the full Springboks team, but it's basically back to the future. They've gone back to their backline pillars, and the backline looks much stronger for South Africa, and I don't think they're going to throw some of those 50-50 balls that helped the Wallabies back into the game on the weekend. But I actually wonder, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I wonder if the opportunity is up front for Australia, because that Springbok pack has taken a hit through injury and some reshuffling. So might be an opportunity there to really match the Boks at the scrum, at the line out, and get that pick and go game happening. straight up the middle, then unleash the backs, you know. If the Springboks bring that rush D too hard, the Aussies prove that there's space on the outside, or even those well-timed inside balls flat against the line. So I'm probably thinking the Boks are going to bounce back this weekend, but hell, man, it would be one beautiful cat amongst the pigeons if the Aussies can do it twice in the Republic. Guys, I will be back to analyze both games on the weekend. Meanwhile, send this video to someone who loves rugby. Like, subscribe, follow my new Instagram rugby page. Love to see you over there. I'll be back for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now.